Virtually every day for the last 2 weeks, there's been some report or story about some negative behaviors by a coach, typically women's basketball coach, college basketball coach, and the negative behaviors, some form of punishment that turns into alleged physical or verbal abuse, with the most extreme case being a conditioning slash mental toughness exercise that ended up with a player suffering organ failure and being admitted to a hospital. So one thing that I think, obviously there's a lot of allegations, and I'm not at any of these schools, so I have no idea what's going on with any of these specific situations. But from the number of cases that have been reported in the last couple of weeks, it seems like there's a problem. And one thing that I think happens oftentimes when coaching is coaches adopt almost an us against them mentality, not with the opponent, but with their own players. So it becomes the coaching staff versus the players. And the players adopt the same kind of mindset where it's the players against the coaching staff. And this happens in workplaces as well, beyond just sports, where a boss creates an environment where it's the boss against the employees or the employees against the boss. So it's not something that's only symptomatic in sports. But I think it defeats the idea of a team when the coach and the players aren't working together on the same goal. And obviously with the best teams, whether it's in women's college basketball or the NBA or high school, etc., the players and the coaches are working together to achieve their goals. So one thing that I try to think of when I'm coaching a team, and it's probably partially because many of my head coaching experiences have been in clubs in Europe where, I know that the players were there before me and they're going to be there after me because many of the players kind of develop and play in the same club, from childhood on. But I try to adopt the idea that the players aren't working for me. I work for the players. I don't think of players in kind of a subservient role, and I don't take an attitude of my way or the highway as do many coaches. I try to think of my job as being one where I'm trying to help the players achieve their goals. And in that respect, I think of myself almost as working for the players more than I think the players are working for me. I want us to work together towards a goal. And in that objective, my goal or my role is to help the players to achieve the on-court goals. And so I try to look at it in this way to avoid some of these problems where it becomes a us against them kind of situation, because I've seen this behavior even when it's not it doesn't devolve into a abuse type situation, but it's just normal, a more normal environment, but there's still that kind of animosity between coach and players, and it can ruin seasons. I've seen players who've been kicked off teams because this kind of adversarial relationship just gets to the point where it's unsustainable. So somebody has to go, and in a college situation, the coaches have all the power. So typically it's the player that is released and not the coach. So again, I think a lot of these problems can be solved with the way that we approach a team environment, but also the way that we approach punishment. To me, if you're doing a good job as a coach, the need for punishment should be small. To me, I've always felt that if I have to punish players, multiple times during a week to get them to pay attention in practice or to play harder or, whatever a case may be that leads to a punishment, I think that I'm doing a poor job. And so I really reflect on what I'm doing wrong that's leading to these poor behaviors from the team and from the players. Because I think, I generally believe the players show up because they want to play, they want to improve, they want to have fun, they want to be good, they want to, win championships, whatever. I don't think the players sign up for basketball at any level because, they want to mess around or they want to, piss off a coach or anything like that. So I think that first punishment should be minimal, and then the second part of it is conditioning is not really the time where we want to develop mental toughness. So if I'm doing an early season conditioning drill, yes, ideally I want players to be able to push through and to accomplish it, but I can't push a player too far beyond their current abilities to where they're ending up in a hospital, where it becomes an abusive situation. And so some of that is understanding players better, communicating with players better, and then also not viewing conditioning in this as a punishment, but finding other ways, or finding more positive ways to motivate players to start the season with better conditioning, so they're not coming in at a 0 point and having to build from zero, but they already have a base of conditioning when they arrive for the first workout. So it's trying to create a positive approach where the players and coaches are working together for a singular goal, as opposed to coach setting down a bunch of rules and the players kind of trying to avoid the rules or figure out how to get around the rules and so forth. So again, not passing blame on any of these coaches in any of these situations. Some of them have been quite successful in their careers, but I do see a problem, and I do think some of the problem can be alleviated just by changing our behaviors and the approach and the way that we view our players, potentially giving them more respect, and then also changing our views towards punishment and conditioning, and realizing that, again, all of these things work together to try to improve the player's performance. And if the conditioning or the punishment or whatever is not improving the player's performance, then we're just trying to make players work hard. We're just adding unnecessarily to a player's stress. And a lot of times it almost comes across as coaches doing this out of spite. And I think that's where a lot of the problems between players and coaches will happen, is the players don't really see a reason or a purpose for what they're doing, and it seems that the coach is almost being spiteful because that maybe the coach is embarrassed that they lost a game, or the coach is mad that the players aren't in good enough shape at the beginning of the season, whatever the case may be, whatever the reason the coach might have, but it comes across as spite, and that's where the real animosity occurs, and that's what ends up kind of escalating into serious problems that become, lead to allegations of abuse.